Hey everyone, welcome to FinDEVr. We're happy to be up front. Thank you, Julie and Heather, for the intro. I'm Stephen Sykes. I'm the Director of Strategy at SoFi for SoFi Wealth specifically, and this is Michael Del Monte at Quovo. I forgive you for the moment if you're wondering what all these kind of made-up words, SoFi, Quovo, Director of Strategy, actually mean. Hopefully throughout the presentation we'll give you a little bit more information on at least the first two. So before we dive into the actual content, I'd love to give you guys a little bit of background on SoFi specifically. We were founded in 2011 with the first student loan refinance product on the market. We use that to kind of build a sustainable competitive advantage based on a mix of technology and financial expertise. So far to this point, we've saved our 250,000 members more than $1 billion on their interest payments, and frankly, that grows, nearly exponentially every month as our growth curve increases, and we're really proud of that. And finally, since that beginning with that initial product, we've begun investing in a bunch of new products. So no longer just student loan refinancing, but we're able to do personal loans for credit card refinance, mortgages and refinances there. And we've also begun to expand into life insurance and my personal favorite, investment management and robo-advice, which we're going to be talking about more today. I think also, before we dive into our important collaboration, I think there are a few values that SoFi takes really seriously, and I think these will be themes that you hear throughout the rest of the presentation. So the first for us, and this is kind of how we think about what we want to deliver to our members, the first is speed, right? We want to make sure we're delivering service as quickly as possible. And frankly, sometimes within the financial services industry, we know this can be a challenge, but we know there's a high expectation among our members. Second is transparency. No surprises in terms of fees, and frankly, even on somebody's financial health. Third, alignment. In places where we make money, we want to make sure we're delivering surplus value back to our members. And finally, growth. Our member base looks probably a lot like folks in this room and maybe all the folks we work with. Younger, high income, very successful, but probably haven't quite made it to financial independence. So we want to be the partner to grow with folks as they move forward. So with those things in mind, I would love to hand it over to Michael to kind of walk through our most recent collaboration and talk through some of the exciting stuff we're doing together.
Thanks, Stephen. I'm Michael Del Monte. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Quovo, and we are SoFi's data provider in this project. We started in 2013 with a mission of providing fast, accurate transparency between you, your customer, and his bank. In 2014, a year later, we've launched our data aggregation service in which we get structured, clean, normalized account data about your customers' accounts at financial institutions. These are banks, credit cards, credit unions, brokerages, 401ks, whatever. 2 years later, in 2016, we launched our AUTH service together with SoFi, and that's what we're talking about today. AUTH stands for, or is short for, authentication. In this service, we're verifying that your customer owns his account. We're verifying that money can be transferred into or out of the account, and we're getting the data that's necessary to do that. These are the ABA number, the routing number, and the account number for doing ACH transfers. And later this year, we will also be able to do those transfers on your behalf, which is removing another barrier between you, your customer, and his institution. So that was 2016 when we launched. That was just last year. Here we are a few months later. We're very proud to say that we have added over 200 institutions to what we call our direct or instant connection list. These are institutions for which we can verify the ownership of your customer's account within seconds. Instant means within a few seconds. And so I want you to imagine SoFi at the scale they're at today trying to do this the old way, telling Joe to go get those numbers at the bottom of his check, and then they have to verify that he owns the account, that it's in his name. We've reduced the process that used to take days to seconds. We can also do this for over 13,000 institutions using microdeposits. This is a more traditional way of doing authentication, but that process is a different workflow that I'm not going to talk about today. And the last number on my slide here is 3. This is a small number. This is how long it takes us to add a new institution to our first list, to the instant list. It takes us about 3 days. We're very proud of that. We build out institution connections extremely rapidly. We did this partly because SoFi needed it. And so in our collaboration with them, they gave us a number of institutions they needed to connect to. We put them on the instant list, and now we're ready to roll. I'm going to talk a little bit about the API in general terms. It is a RESTful API. Now, that's kind of table stakes for today. But I mention it. It's on the slide because I want to emphasize that this was written last year. So this is written with a modern understanding of what an API should look like. It wasn't written a decade ago. The API and a RESTful framework is intuitive, and it is scalable, and it makes sense. I think you'll find, I'm going to walk through it rapidly. It is easy to use, and it has a lot of visibility. There are two more bullet points. I'm going to take them in opposite order. At SoFi's suggestion, they had some awesome suggestions of things we could do with the API. We added an auth-ag combo. So you can actually sync an account for auth, meaning we're going to authenticate it, verify it, get the ACH transaction information, and you can sync it at the same time for ag, which is our traditional aggregation product, where we're going to go in and get all of the investments, all of the accounts, all of the balances, all of the transaction history for the customer's accounts at this institution. We can do them at the same time, and that's going to open up doors for us and for SoFi. I'll talk a little bit about that at the end. And then the middle bullet point is real-time insights. So the process of doing an auth sync is relatively fast. It's seconds, but there's more data to get, especially if we're going to do it with aggregation combined. And so we built in webhooks. So you can register webhooks and get the data pushed back to you in real time as we acquire it. This gives your customer a great experience. They can hook up, they can see that they're hooked up, that they're verified, and on the back end, you're getting the data as it comes in, and they don't have to wait, and you don't have to wait. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the API using Postman, and I apologize, I'm not going to dwell on the details. I just want to walk you through the process to show you how simple and how structured it is, and we'll just go through the beginnings of this. One thing I want to say is there are a few steps, but this is because it is done in a structured and scalable way. We're going to do it from scratch, from the top. When you come back and you've got a customer who's adding another account, you're going to start in the middle, and this is a lot quicker. The first step in the API is to create an access token. You're going to pass your security credentials at Quovo to us. You're going to do that one time. That one time, again, is something that's scalable. You'll get an access token from us, and you're going to use that access token for the rest of the session. And that is something that you can distribute on your own internal systems. You don't need to have your credentials spread around your own infrastructure. The access token will expire in about an hour. The next step is to create a user. This is your representation of your customer on our system. You're going to pass some information to us, and we're going to give you, as with everything in this API, we're going to give you an object back, a JavaScript object. In this case, let's see, that's the body, and let me send this and see what we get back. And we're going to get back, well, oops, unauthorized. But normally, I think I declined to send my token at the beginning. You're going to get a customer record with an ID number. The next step is to create an account. This is your customer's connection to a financial institution. To do this, you're going to tell us the customer and the institution ID number, and also his credentials, so his login credentials. And then the final step, or the next to final step here, is to initiate a sync on the account. In this, there's no data to send, and you can see here with the post URL that you're just asking for a sync, and we've given it a parameter is both, so we're going to sync for auth and ag. The sync process can take some time, so the next step is to then pull back and see what the status is of the sync. We're going to give you a record that tells you, in this case, it's already done. That's because I ran the demo earlier, but normally it would say syncing, and we have a progress indicator to tell you what stage of the process it's at. If you have registered webhooks, you'll be getting data as it comes in on that channel. After the syncing is complete, you can fetch the data. And here I'm just going to show fetching the auth information for the account is going to show you information about each of the portfolios, each of the separate sub-accounts that this customer has at the institution. For each of these, we're going to show the name or the category of the account. Here is the name, which is the full DDA number. This is the direct deposit account number for doing an ACH transfer. And the routing number is the ABA number. If the institution has a wire routing number, we're going to include that. We'll have the balance. And we may have other metadata that's associated with the portfolio if it has things like an interest rate, or we've got debt obligations in here that are going to come up under a different call. You'll see things like the maturity date, things like that. And then briefly, if you have synced for ag as well as auth, or just for ag, you can then fetch much more detail about the portfolios on the institution. You can fetch the list of their positions, which I'm not sure is going to work here. And you can fetch transactions. And for transactions, we get the full transaction history. We're going to get all of the history that the bank or the institution is available to give to us. We don't go back 30 days. We don't go back 90 days. We get everything that is available. And one of the great things, as I alluded to earlier, with doing auth and ag at the same time, is at the end of the process, we have a complete transaction history for your customer on all of his accounts at this institution. And then now we can do things like income verification. We can analyze his transaction history to see, does he have recurring income? What are the sources, and how often and how much? And we can do the opposite. What are his outflows? How recurring and how much? And we can do asset verification. How much does he have? This is ensuring that if you're going to set up something like automatic funding, that you've got it all set up properly. So now I'm going to turn this over to Stephen to show you what it looks like at SoFi on their end.
Sure. Thanks, Michael. So if we can imagine for a second that we're kind of mid-user flow here for somebody that's just registering a new account with SoFi Wealth. To this point, we've gotten them to give us, their personal information, some of their personal information, answered some of the required KYC and suitability checks, and then also kind of made a recommendation for the right sort of portfolio for them based on, some simple questions around age and goals. But now we're at the point where we need to get the information. The rubber's going to hit the road. We need to frankly fund the account, which often is kind of one of the crucial steps in conversion through our funnel. So the way it works today, and I'm going to actually walk through this live with a test account with USAA. So please, if everyone can stop taking notes for a minute, this is all of my actual information. You guys, hopefully you won't be able to see too much here, but it should go pretty quickly.
I'll have a copy on my end.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna see LastPass pop up, and it's going to store it forever. Yeah, let's not save that password. All right, so then my password is, or my PIN is my birthday. It won't be my birthday past today, so good luck, guys. Anyone want to wish me happy birthday? It was this weekend. Thank you. And then my USAA member number, which won't change, but is of zero use to you. So you can see how quickly this is going. We're linking the account. The next screen it's going to do is it's going to give me a confirmation here shortly. Or actually, excuse me, it's going to take me to my accounts, so I just need to give it a quick name. So this is my core checking account. Now we're linked, right? So it's just that easy. I've linked my account. Now I can choose to add funds. How much would I like to contribute? $500 a month. I get to pick the date I want to do it on. Let's say also my birthday. And complete. And just that easy. I've got a recurring contribution set up on the 19th of every month. And literally, I think we just did that in about 1 minute and 20 seconds. Frictionless, completely quick, as Michael alluded to. I think there's one other thing that's really important. So this is, today, this is what's in production, right? What you guys just saw. I think what's important to call out here is the combination of auth and ag. So when a user gets through that flow, at this point in future phases, we're actually going to pull in all of that aggregated information that came from the ag API. And we're going to show them, frankly, everything that comes, all of the information that comes from their existing account that they've already linked, and give them the opportunity to link other accounts so we can do further investment analysis, deliver further advice, and frankly, make a broader service offering for our members here. So I think it's crucial to think about those two things together. I think right now is also a good time to step back and kind of link this back to some of SoFi's values at the beginning. I think there are two really important ones that come up. I think the first is speed. Clearly, I don't think there's any quicker way to frankly link and fund an account on the market today, and I've mystery shopped just about every one of them. And the second is for speed. I want you guys to think quickly, and it's not a big logical jump, but from this technology to using it in our core lending business, right? So mortgages and personal loans and student loan refinance. Anytime you're doing mortgage or loan underwriting, two crucial pieces of information, as Michael said, are income and asset verification. Typically, if you're doing that with your bank today, you're pulling your statements down, you're emailing them at best by PDF, at worst you're actually having to send them through snail mail. And in the future, as we deploy this with, throughout the organization, we're going to leverage it through our lending business units, and we'll be able to do all of that in a completely paperless kind of end-to-end fashion without any kind of extra work from our members. Finally, the other thing is, I think, transparency, right? I don't think there's a better way to get advice and analysis on somebody's holdings and to do it in a seamless way than what we've put in front of you today. So I think that takes us to the end of our presentation. We nailed it almost exactly at 15 minutes.
Yeah,
I
nice.
think we did pretty good here. A couple of things. Just want to say thank you for the time. If you need any further information, we're going to take some questions right now. But both Michael and myself will be at our booth out front for probably the next couple of hours. So feel free to reach out to us directly. Also, on your social media channel of choice. So, first question up.
All right, let's see. What does it say? Do members signing up for the program agree to have their data used for other purposes, and do you make that data available for purchase? And I assume you mean purchase by other parties. And I'll take that one. I think that's, from our perspective, that's probably where the question is directed. And the answer is no and no. No, nobody has to agree to have their data used for other purposes, because no, we don't make that data available for purchase. We've got a very strong core ethic at Quovo that we are not selling customer data to anyone. We're giving it to the financial advisor, who is really our customer, for the benefit of the end customer. And we don't want to sell that data to third parties, because if you work out the math, the net effect is often to the disadvantage of the customer, and that's not what the business is that we've envisioned. We're here to break down the barriers between you, the customer, and the bank, to achieve transparency so that you guys get instant, accurate insights into their data, and it's you guys that get the information, not some third party.
All right, good question. So the second question up is, how do you raise $500 million? I have no clue. I didn't. But no, I think what it comes back to, if we think about kind of the initial slide that I put up for SoFi, I think there are two things worth calling out. I think one is I do at my core believe we have a sustainable competitive advantage in both the lending and financial services space that's based on a combination of our financial expertise. And I think what often goes unrecognized is frankly the strength of our capital markets group and what that allows us to do from a lending perspective, and the strength of our underwriting team, which allows us to really use all of the available data in creative ways like we do with Quovo to frankly make the best possible underwriting decisions. And I think those two things really give us, have helped us build a profitable business, which maybe in this day and age among the fintech space is perhaps unique. But I think that's probably the secret sauce.
Okay, the next question is, do you see future challenges in customer data aggregation and the use of customer data, considering emerging privacy initiatives like EU regulations? There is always the potential that privacy regulations are going to get in the way, but we actually think it's the opposite. We think that the world is moving toward greater transparency, and the mobility of this data is part of that. So it's there's no damaging the privacy of the relationship between the bank and the customer, and you and the customer, but enabling the customer to access his data and get his data to someone else is part of what data mobility is all about. We think that's the direction that the market is moving, and that's the way the regulations are going. I think I'll take this one as well. Why is your API using HTTP instead of HTTPS? No, it is using HTTPS. If it said HTTP, I think there was a mistake. Everything's over HTTPS with our API. And does the service API support accounts outside the United States? The answer to that is yes. And we have an initiative now. We're doing banks in Canada and Australia, and we have a few banks in Austria. We've done aggregation for many years, actually, since we started with banks overseas, and we are fully ready to take on things like non-U.S. securities. That said, it's the minority of what we do. The vast majority is the United States.